You're listening to Mic Drop Moments, a podcast brought to you each week with me, your host, Sandra Garlick. During the podcast, I invite guests to share their amazing stories, knowledge and top tips, including their mic drop moments, especially for you. I also share my learning and inspiration about life, business growth and visibility. I'm delighted to bring the Mic Drop Moments podcast to you each week to inspire and motivate you to achieve. Enjoy the podcast and don't forget to leave a review. Mic Drop Moments is sponsored by Grow Radio. Want to launch your own podcast? Grow Radio are here to help. Grow Radio has launched and supported countless podcasts, and they'd love to do the same for you. Just hit record and they'll handle the rest. No editing stress, no technical faff, just a great podcast released when you want. Need a little extra support? Grow Radio's workshops and courses make getting started easy. Let's bring your podcast to life. Message Grow Radio on social media. Let's make this happen. Welcome to Mic Drop Moments, and this week, continuing with our theme of sales success, I thought I'd share some of the soft skills that I've used in the past that have ultimately led to sales success. So I absolutely love sales now. Never did, but I absolutely love them now. And I'm actually digging down into why some people buy and why they don't. But I believe that sales success doesn't always come from selling as such. It comes from the soft skills that surround selling. And it's the soft skills that we can improve on and actually nurture and become better at sales. And they're actually power skills, I believe, that are embedded into us, but we can learn them. So it's about listening, about curiosity, about setting boundaries. It's about your presence. And these are the things that turn conversations into clients without the pressure, without those pressure sales, that hustle culture. So when I look back at sales and think about when I've sold more comfortably and more from my own values, if you like, it's when I've been selling using the soft skills rather than saying buy my stuff, which isn't always comfortable and sometimes feels a bit icky. And each and every time I've sold, it's because of two reasons. The first is connection, and the second is trust. So I'm going to explore a little bit more today about soft skills and the ones that actually are quieter, they come more naturally, and brought together, they create amazing and beautiful sales success. And yes, I'll throw in a few of my stories and mistakes, as always, because you know me, I always share the highs and the lows, the things that didn't go quite so well. So the first soft skill is the power of listening. We were created, I don't know who created us, but we were created with two ears and one mouth for a reason. But how often do you listen? And I mean really listen. And this is what I've discovered recently. I've only just started doing discovery calls, never liked them, felt they were a key, didn't want them on my radar, didn't sign up for discovery calls, or the ones I had in the past felt really awful and very sales pressured. And then I got into a situation where somebody asked me if they could do a discovery call. And I thought, oh gosh, I really don't want to do this. I've never done one of these before. Don't like discovery call scripts. I thought I'll just go on the call and see what happens. And it was a conversation. There was no selling on my part. There was more an explanation, listening, really listening to where they are right now and what they needed. And they bought. And there was no pressure there. So sometimes we think we're listening, but we're not. And I've been really guilty of this. I want to jump in and give them the answer straight away. And I'm really, really trying to rein myself back in right now to listen more, because the more you listen, we shouldn't be listening just to immediately respond. We need to listen to understand. And I remember conversations years ago at networking events, people were talking to me about challenges. And instead of jumping in immediately with advice, which I'm desperate to do sometimes, I just let them talk. And they paused at one point and they actually said to me, "You're the first person that's actually really listened to me." And I ended up working with them. And, they became a client, not immediately. It was a few months later. And I didn't pitch anything. I didn't try to sell them anything. I just started that conversation, listened, and created that connection. And that's the key. People buy where they feel understood, not where they feel being sold to. And we can talk about the psychology of selling. I'm not a sales expert. I'm talking here from my own personal experience. So I don't really understand what the psychology is, but I know we buy from how we're made to feel, and we buy from emotion. And if you ask me about shoes, there's definitely some emotion there when I'm buying them. But listening builds connection faster than anything else. So have a think about what things you've bought in the past. Has it been because it's a shiny object, or has it been because somebody really, really listened to you and really understood what it is you wanted, and you felt that you felt connected to them? And I think, have a think about when you've been a good listener and what that's brought to you. So the second one that I want to come up onto is the art of asking better questions. And questions in it are absolutely magic when you're thinking of sales. Not nosy questions, but curious, caring questions. And sometimes I'll say to my clients or prospective clients, I don't beat around the bush. I say what I want to say to you. You can ignore it. It's a suggestion. Or I might ask you questions which really dig deep and you don't have to answer them. But instead of thinking, how can I sell to this person? How can I sell to this person? Why don't you ask yourself, how can I understand this person? What would make, questions such as, what would make the biggest difference to you right now? What's getting in your way? What's holding you back? What support do you really need right now? What would be good for you? And what outcome, what goals are you working towards? And when somebody asks you what you need, you then start to tell your story. And that's what I want to gain from my clients. I want to gain their stories. And by telling me their story, I can see the gaps. I can instantly see the gaps. And then I'm able to come from a place of sharing what I believe they'll need. And you don't always have to pitch. Now, sometimes people will say to me, well, how can I get involved, or how can I work with you? And then I'll tell them how they can work with me. But I won't go into anything with a pure sales pitch. And you get an email, it pings into your box, or you get a message saying, I really want to work with you. I don't know how yet, but I really want to work with you. And then that leads to the sales. So think about, how you can ask those better questions when you're speaking to your clients. Because actually, I know now that by asking the questions, the right questions, and they vary for each individual person, and one question leads to the next, but by digging and listening to those answers before jumping on to your next question, there's a tendency sometimes when you're asking questions to be formulating the next question in your head. And sometimes you just need to take a step back and listen. When I'm on a discovery call with a client now, I'm writing all the time. I'm noting down what they're saying because I want to capture all that information. And I've got, when I'm working with somebody and mentoring with them, I've got all those notes. I can go back to those things and I can say, well, in the beginning, you said this was what you wanted. Is that really what you want? Or do you think that's what you want because everybody else has told you so? There's so many different variations of this, but really have a think and ask brilliant questions. And then selling is about confidence as well. And I don't mean confidence as being arrogant or confidence forcing people to do something, but confidence in a way can be magnetic. And if you're quietly confident, or you appear to be confident, even when you're not, then sometimes that is the key. I'm briefly interrupting this podcast to tell you about something new. It's not a course, it's not a program, it's the Amplify experience, a curated space where visibility meets strategy and your voice becomes your greatest asset. If you're ready to amplify your voice, your personal brand, and your business, visit the show notes for the link to book your discovery call. Let's chat and see if the Amplify experience is right for you. Now back to the podcast. Now, confident energy can sell far more than confident language and being what I call bullshit. But people think they need a script. I always felt I needed a script, but I realised you don't need a script at all. You just need confidence in what you do, but also providing a safe space, really, for people to open up to you. And I realised that sometimes I'm confident and I appear to be confident even when I'm not. And I've shared this before, but being quietly confident can be incredibly powerful. And sometimes, if you state your prices clearly, and I don't hide my prices ever, I'm hugely transparent about my pricing. And, I share my credibility piece, my years of experience, and I don't hold myself out to be smaller or bigger than I am. But actually, when you rush through your fees and the charges right at the end, it's this and it's this and it's this, but don't worry about that. It's almost as if you're hiding something. And I think sometimes when you speak confidently and hold yourself confidently, when you're talking about your prices, your potential clients will have more confidence in you. And that quiet confidence can be incredibly powerful. It really can. And I did that. I used to be embarrassed about telling people the price. I used to be embarrassed about getting to that point of the conversation. If somebody asked how much I'd charged, I'd sort of rush it quickly and say it quietly. But I no longer do that. And I've grown into being confident about my pricing because I know I give huge value. In fact, I over-deliver sometimes because I want to give huge value and I'm comfortable with that. But I'm confident in what I deliver because I have been around the block a few times, as I would put it. But, I have got a lot of knowledge, I have got a lot of experience, and I have got a very unique skill set. Now, that's not the Liam Neeson type of skill set. That is a very unique type of skill set because I've been in business for decades and I have got a lot of business experience, as well as speaking experience and experience of other things as well. Coming on to boundaries, and boundaries need to be part of your sales strategy, and that surprises a lot of people, but not everybody is your client. And I've made so many mistakes over the years, and if I get a red flag warning or something, intuition in my stomach that thinks this client isn't right for me, I actually hold myself to that now and put boundaries in place. And I once had someone come to me wanting something that I didn't offer. And I used to bend to try and fit into what they were wanting rather than what I knew I could deliver really well. And I'd start creating bespoke offers. Now, don't get me wrong, I do create bespoke offers sometimes. So my sponsorships, I always want to create what somebody actually wants to meet their objectives. That's different. When I'm doing delivery and when I'm working with a client and when they tell me what their goals are and what they want to achieve, if I'm not the right person for them, I no longer bend myself into creating something bespoke or something which I'm not comfortable or don't like delivering. So somebody asked me the other day if I can do content for them. I don't do content. That's not my role. They're better off with somebody else. So I just redirect them to somebody else who's absolutely perfect for their needs. And guess what? By doing that and doing that honestly and with integrity, those people come back. They come back when you have got something that they actually need and that you actually deliver. And I think that boundary actually builds not only the connection, but it builds trust as well. So I use boundaries when I'm selling and something. I don't think this is the right fit for you right now. It's not what you need. Or I don't think this will get you the outcome you want. I think there's a better option. Or let's revisit this in 6 months' time when you're in a different place, or when you're ready, or when, or maybe even saying, I don't think I can help you, but I know someone who can. And that's the honesty, that's putting in the boundaries. And sometimes when you're saying a no, ultimately it can lead to a bigger yes further down the line. And then finally, I'd just like to talk about presence and follow through, which I believe is a quiet superpower. Presence is everything. Showing up consistently, even quietly. You don't have to be the loudest in the room, but it builds familiarity. I've lost count of the times I've walked into a room and somebody comes up to me and speaks to me as if we're best friends. It might be the first time we've ever met, but we've built up that familiarity because they've seen me, they've heard me speak, they've listened to my podcasts, they've watched my lives, and they ultimately feel as if they know me really well. And that familiarity builds trust, and trust builds sales. I've had people come up to me and say, I've followed you for years and now I'm ready. I've had people buy from me, and when I have my first conversation with them, I say, how did you hear about me? Oh, I've been following you for years, but I've never commented or engaged. I just knew that one day I wanted to work with you. How cool is that? Years, absolutely years. And that's the power of presence. And the follow through and follow up doesn't need to be pushy. It can be really gentle. Just checking in. How are you getting on? Have you got any questions? I saw something recently that reminded me of our conversation, or I've just seen this and thought it might help you. It's human. It's not salesy. It's just checking in. It's not being pushy. And I think that's the key. And when you've got that familiarity and that connection piece, then the trust starts to build. So I've, sent, not proposals, I don't do proposals as such, but I've sent out offers before. And at the time of recording, I'm currently sending out an offer every day for my 12 days of Christmas. And some people will just ignore that. They won't want it. It won't be right for them. And I said in my first email, this might not be right for you, and that's okay. But I've had people, when I've put something out there and they've come back to me ages after and said, I didn't buy that and I wish I had. Is there any way I can work with you? And they've unexpectedly resurfaced after you thought an opportunity has passed. So that does happen. You're not right for everybody right now, but you might be right for somebody at some point in their future. And I think if you remember that, you'll do well. So I don't believe the soft skills of sales are optional. I believe they are your sales superpowers, and I embrace mine all the time. And always go for connection over pressure selling, curiosity over scripts, and presence over perfection. And actually think more about the sell, and more about the connections. I've been sharing everywhere that I think connection is going to be the key for 2026. So I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know how you're getting on with your sales. And I'd love to know if you're embracing these soft skills. So I'll be back with Mic Drop Moments again next week. Have a wonderful week, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for listening to the Mic Drop Moments podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Join me next week for more inspiration, learning, and top tips. Want to work with me on your business growth and strategy, speaking, or simply growing your audience? Just get in touch. Visit womanwho.co.uk to find out how you can start your speaking and visibility journey, or even feature on a future podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's podcast. And if there are any topics you would like to hear, just get in touch with me, your host, Sandra Garlick.